All right. Welcome to another edition of the MI All Day podcast. Sorry for the little delay here and for moving the camera as we get started, but it's still getting used to this stuff. But you can see we've got a fancy little background here, right? What do you guys think about that? That's pretty cool, right? Got the Canes football in the back. You know what that means? It is game time, right? We're taking on Texas A&M this Saturday, which is tomorrow. It is currently Friday. It is September 16th. 2020 and the 22, the U coming at Texas A&M tomorrow night at 9 p.m. in College Station. And we're ready for it, man. We've been waiting for this game for so long. Can't wait to get this started. I am jacked up on Red Bull, jacked up on Diet Coke and life in general, just waiting for this game to happen. So, as always, I will be giving you a breakdown of the game here now. Let me sip my Diet Coke as I'm turning this into a tradition mid-show, and give you a little breakdown of what I think is going to happen tomorrow night versus Texas A&M. So, what do we got for you today? Okay, Texas A&M 1-1, correct? They lost last week to Appalachian State. Did not look good in that game. But let's be honest, guys, that is not the team we're going to be facing tomorrow night. Okay, I'm going to let you know right now. The advantage of taking so long to get this game breakdown out because of my busy schedule is that you get a lot of the news pregame that a lot of people didn't get early in the week when they put together their game preview or game breakdown. So, for instance, some people put out their stuff before they knew that Xavier Restrepo wasn't going to play. And the new news that hit today was that Max Johnson is taking over as a starting quarterback for Texas A&M over Haynes King. And if you listen to my man Raul on my podcast, he gave you the perfect breakdown of Haynes King. Basically, he said that Haynes King sounds like a guy who changes underwear, who wears one pair of underwear, doesn't wash it, and just goes out and buys another pair because he doesn't like doing laundry or something to that effect. I mean, Raul's a lot funnier than I am. So listen to the episode if you like. It's on the pod, put it out yesterday. Thanks to Raul for coming by and dropping a little gem for us before the Texas A&M game. He only comes out for big games, and according to him, big ones. And I'll let you listen to that and get his explanation for what that means. Anyway, on to the game. So how does this change my assessment of what's going to go on against Texas A&M with Max Johnson starting and Xavier Restrepo being out? Well, I mentioned in the podcast, a Wide Right podcast with Manny, and I mentioned it not just this week, but the week before, that I felt Haynes King was erratic. And I thought, in my mind, he was holding back Texas A&M's offense. And I felt if they made the switch to Max Johnson, their offense would probably be a lot more efficient and effective because Max Johnson will be the kind of guy that just gets the ball in playmakers' hands, doesn't necessarily have to throw the ball down the field to make a lot of plays, but at least gets the playmakers the ball, which is something Haynes King has not been able to do through two games. He did a little bit of the first game against Sam Houston State, but he was still up and down with it, a little wild thing, going back to Major League. Billy Vaughn. Is it Billy Vaughn? I forget his name. As a dork drives by on a motorcycle while I'm trying to record this. This is just great. Anyway, we're gonna keep it rolling because that's what we do. I don't care. I don't edit. I just go with it. You know what I mean? Because I ain't got time to edit. Nor do I have the skill to edit. But we'll get there one day. Anyway, so I think Max Johnson is going to make this a little bit more difficult for the Hurricanes from the perspective of he's going to be able to get the ball to guys like Anaya Smith. He's going to be able to get the ball to Yokeith Brown. He's going to get the ball to their freshman wide receiver, Evan Stewart, and let them go out there and make plays, which is going to be a little bit more dangerous. Now, he's not a threat to run like Haynes King is, but to be honest, Haynes King hasn't been doing that in the run game right now for Texas A&M anyway. He's a little slippery in the pocket. He's not elusive. I wouldn't call him elusive at all, but at least he's like straight line fast and he can move around a little bit. Although Max Johnson is not a burner, he's not a guy that's going to beat you in the zone read game. He can move around the pocket, slide, get a few yards if he needs to. To me, he reminds me a lot of last year's quarterback from Michigan State, and this year's quarterback from Michigan State, if you've been watching Michigan State. I forget his first name. His last name is Thorne. Anyway, so Thorne from Michigan State, a guy that can, put the ball where it needs to be. He's not going to wow you with his arm talent. He's not going to wow you with the way he plays, but he's effective enough, and he leads the offense down the field. And if he needs to scramble to get a first down, to keep the chains moving, he'll do that. But that's not his game, and that's exactly what Max Johnson is going to do here. I think what this is going to do for Texas A&M, aside from getting the ball to playmakers, it's going to help them move the chains and stay on the field. I think one of the big reasons they weren't able to stay on the field on third downs against Appalachian State was for this reason, that they didn't have an accurate quarterback, a guy that can get the playmakers the ball, that could just at least put it in a position where the receivers can make a play on the ball. Haynes King was wild. He was all over the place. I think the offensive line might get bolstered up if their center comes back from mono. We're not sure if that's going to happen. I believe his name is Bryce Foster. Forgive me for not having the name available, but if he comes back, that'll solidify the offensive line a little bit more. I know they had a couple guys held out of the game last week against App State due to injury, precautionary stuff. So they're going to be back. So again, this is a different team that they're going to be facing. For whatever reason, during Jimbo Fisher's tenure at Texas A&M, when A&M seems to be on the verge of shitting the bed and tanking the season, their backs up or up against the wall, they seem to fight back and finish on a strong note or start taking off towards the end of the season. We saw that last year against Alabama. They had lost 2 in a row. They had lost to Mississippi State and Arkansas. Came into the Alabama game, heavy underdogs, 21 points, I believe it was, at home. And they pulled the upset with Zach Calzada, effectively their second or third string quarterback. So I fully expect Jimbo to be in back against the wall mode here. I expect Texas A&M to be in that mode. I don't anticipate this to be an easy game. I think it's going to be a dogfight the whole way through, and I think that's the way you want it if you're a Hurricanes fan. You don't want to see the Texas A&M that you saw against App State and have people talk shit about the win. I mean, either way, it's going to be a catch-22 this game, because if the Hurricanes win, basically the narrative is going to be, oh, you beat a team that App State beat. Big deal. And if they lose, then it's going to be like, oh, you can't win the big game, and you lost to a team that lost to App State. So it is what it is. But at the end of the day, you got to win the game, right? You got to prove that you're able to compete with SEC programs in a hostile environment with 100,000 plus, 110, I believe, at Kyle Field. People coming off that Yell practice the night before, midnight Yell, in your face, crazy, rowdy, and ready to party. So let's see what we do. Now for some numbers. What are we going to see here from Texas A&M? Again, the offense is going to change now because of the addition of Max Johnson, but I thought it was going to change anyway, even though Haynes King would have been the quarterback. I think what you're going to see this week out of the A&M offense is you're going to see a lot more quick game stuff. I think you're going to see a lot more RPO slants. I think you're going to see a lot more what they call glance routes, RPO slants. I think you're going to see bubble screens, quick screens, maybe running back screens. I think they're going to use their athletes in space rather than trying to go vertical a lot and push the ball down the field. They'll take their shots, but I think it's going to be more measured in terms of how they do that. I think they're going to try and move the football and use those bubble screens, those quick screens, those quick plays, those crossers to be able to move the chains, keep the ball moving, and then start to suck up the defense before they hit behind the Hurricanes. One of the things that I think we should all be concerned about is, the linebackers, of course, much maligned for the Hurricanes, have not been good in coverage, right? Especially in man-to-man, but they've been bad in zone coverage too, with their zone drops, and teams have been taking advantage of it. At least, Southern Miss and Bethune even have taken advantage of it by running crossers behind the linebackers, and also by running those crossers and sitting behind the linebackers. Another thing they've been doing that I saw Southern Miss and Bethune do is they'll run sort of a pick play, but rather than pick on the same side, they'll run a crossing route from one side and then bring the pick from the opposite side. So as this guy, let me see my fingers here. Can you see my fingers? Can you see my fingers? All right, here are my fingers. This guy's coming this way, right? And then they'll have a guy from the opposite side of the field come across. So as he catches it, he's already setting the screen and he's taking up off field, because the linebackers are basically lost in space as they're dropping into their zone, taking their zone drops. They don't have spatial awareness. They don't see the routes coming, and they get caught up in it. So I think we're going to see some of that. I think we're going to see them try to use some wheels out of the backfield with a running back to try and get the ball to Devon A-Chain in space. I think you're going to see some more, jet sweeps with Anaya Smith. You're going to see some more stuff that A&M hasn't unveiled, just like you're going to see stuff from us that we haven't unveiled, right? I think A&M's offense has been very stagnant to this point because they've been almost without an identity, because they haven't been able to throw the ball well, they haven't been able to run the ball well, and they haven't really been able to take advantage of mismatches. And I think that's what we're going to look for this game. They're going to try and simplify things for Max Johnson, take advantage of their athletes and try and put them in the best position to mismatch against the Hurricanes defense. I would have said that this week we would have seen more designed runs from Haynes King, but that's not going to happen because he's not starting. He may get in the game and get some special plays. You may see him in a Wildcat stuff, may see him in some special packages, but I don't know that you're going to see much of him. Defensively, I think you're going to see Texas A&M, come with the front four for the most part, play coverage games behind. They'll mix and match between man and zone because what they've seen so far, and at least what I've seen from TVD, is when he has to read the field and he's not facing man to man, he's takes a little bit longer to process. And because the receivers aren't getting separation, it's harder for him to pull the trigger. Now with Xavier Restrepo out, his security blanket, almost his safety valve, it's going to take an even longer time for him to process, or it should anyway. I'll talk about that in a minute. So the expectation is that he won't have his go-to guy. So now he's really going to be a little bit more confused in terms of where to get the football out and where to find the guy available. I think they'll also bring some corner blitzes. They'll bring some linebacker blitzes on occasion. I believe Antonio Johnson, their corner, is a guy they like to use off the edge on the blitzes. He's tied with the team lead. He's tied for. Sorry, I looked like the guy from Goonies for a second there, and I apologize. It was like I had a stroke mid-conversation, and I thank you for bearing with me. Anyway, he's tied for the team lead with 12 tackles. He's also tied for the team lead. Well, that's somebody else, but he's tied for the team lead with 12 tackles. He's got a 73.1 tackle rating, so he's good for a corner in terms of tackling. His cover rating is a 63.3, which makes him average pretty much. And he's got an 80-point run defensive grade, meaning this is a corner that likes to stick his nose in it. So when you see 27 Antonio Johnson, he's going to be a physical guy. He's going to try and come up and play near the line of scrimmage on run plays. They might bring him off the edge on corner blitzes when he's on the short side of the field. And when they're running the ball, and especially on wide plays, look for him to stick his nose in it. So I think the Hurricanes are going to try and take advantage of that action. You may see them run something at his side of the field, try to get him to stick his nose in it and throw it behind him. So look for that. Edgerrin Cooper is also tied for the lead in tackles. He is number 45. He's one of their linebackers. Good guy, long, rangy, has 12 tackles, but he's also got the team lead with 3 missed tackles. He's got an 87.1 pass rush grade, so that means I like to bring him as well. And he's got a 53.3 tackle grade, which is not great. That's below average. Hurricanes might want to run right at him. Chris Russell, their other linebacker, another one of theirs, number 34. He's got 10 tackles, 69.8, again, stroke mid-sentence. 69.8 tackle grade, solid, not great, but athletic. Number 26, the safeties, Damani Richardson, and number 20, Jordan Gilbert. Solid safeties in terms of run support and tackle. Coverage, not that great so far this season. Their average between the two of them is a 54.55. Gilbert has an 85 tackle grade, so he likes to stick his nose in it in the run game and support in the pass game as well. So watch the Hurricanes try and take advantage of number 20 when he comes down into the box and tries to flow in. Now, surprise, surprise, who leads the team in pressures? Shamar Stewart, with only 53 snaps, leads the Texas A&M Aggies with 5 pressures and has 1 sack. The team has only generated 3 sacks to this point in the season between these 2 games. So right now the Aggies aren't getting pressure. And you'll see if they aren't getting pressure with that front four and bringing an extra man, they're going to start bringing all out, sell out blitzes if they feel they can lock up the receivers on the outside. That'll be one of the tests for this Hurricane offensive line. How quickly does Texas A&M get that aggressive? If they feel they can't get to the quarterback, are they going to start that way? Or they're going to try and feel it out and see if they can get to the quarterback with 4 and 5, or what they call 4 plus 1. Or go with multiple pressure where they're locking up man-to-man and basically going 1 high or 0 coverage and trying to get to the quarterback that way because they can't generate pressure any other way. So we'll see how the Hurricane offensive line handles that challenge. Didn't look that great last week against Southern Miss. They finally settled in, but they eventually hung in there and got through playing through that 3-3-5 multiple set. Another thing you're going to see from the A&M defense is DJ Durkin likes to mix his fronts. So you'll see a 4 down lineman front initially, then he'll switch to a 3. So you'll see multiple looks. They'll go odd and even fronts. They'll mix it in depending on down and distance and situations and whether or not he wants to bring pressure and the type of pressure he likes to bring. The receivers, as I talked about, Anaya Smith, number 0, speedy guy, burner, 94.1 reception grade at this moment. He's got on 20 plus yard catches. So he's got a 94.1 reception grade from PFF on catches, 20 balls that go 20 plus yards in the air. He's got 3 catches for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns coming in that 20 plus range. So he's a burner. They like to go over the top with him. 9 of his 15 targets have been in the middle of the field. 7 of those 10, 12 of the 15 targets have been to the left or the middle. So essentially, they like to use Ainias Smith on the left side of the field or the middle of the field. You're mostly going to see him get the ball on that left sideline or breaking on a post, something over the middle coming from the left. They've also given him 3 rushes for 11 yards. Those have been like jet sweeps or quick tosses from the backfield. Also, number 1, Evan Stewart, that highly touted 5-star receiver, the freshman. He hasn't been able to get explosive plays right now. He's only caught a few balls. He's got 8 catches for 73 yards in that 0 to 9 yard range. He's been targeted 8 times, and his 8 receptions have come in that range. So right now, I think you'll probably see Texas A&M keep using him in that area and then try and maybe get something over the top for him. Yokeith Brown, number 8, Miami guy from Central. He has a 61.7 grade and catches in the 0 to 9 yard range. 4 of his 5 targets have been in that 0 to 9 yard range. He's got 3 receptions for 113 yards in that area. He's got 1 catch in the 20 plus area that went for 66 yards and a touchdown in that first game against Sam Houston State. And 3 of his 5 targets have been in the middle of the field, and the other 2 targets have been split between the left side and the right side of the field. Devon Achane, their running back, number 6. He's a speedy guy. If this guy gets out in the open field, we're going to be in trouble. So what you want to do as a Hurricanes defense is your defensive line needs to be dominant up front. You want to clog up those lanes, secure the gaps, be in your lanes, force the running back to slow his momentum and start to slide laterally to find a hole, and then have the linebackers fill and tackle. That's the way you want to play it ideally. If this guy's able to get you moving one way, plant, cut, and find a crease, he's gone if he gets to the second level. He's that fast. He's the only offense they had last week against Appalachian State. He had a 26-yard touchdown run, returned the kickoff for a touchdown. He's not only a speedy guy, but he's good after contact. He's been very good after contact each of his years here at Texas A&M. You saw that on the kickoff return against Appalachian State last year, if you saw that play. So far, they've run 16 times out of his 28. 16 of the 28 carries he's had have been to the left side for Achane. He averages 6.3 yards per carry to the left, and he has averages 10.7 yards per carry around the right edge. So if he's going to go, and he's going to go wide, he likes to go wide around that right edge. He's got 3 carries there for 32 yards, and his 2 touchdowns have come from that side. You're going to see a lot of zone action from Texas A&M. They're going to be doing a lot of pulling, a lot of power game. They don't do a lot of gap stuff. 84% of their run game so far this season has been zone run stuff. Another interesting fact here. So I look back at most of Texas, or all of Texas A&M's losses. Since 2019, Texas A&M has lost 11 times since 2019. That includes 19, 20, 21, and this season, 22. In those 11 games, they failed to reach 300 yards 7 times. So 7 out of 11 losses have come when Texas A&M has gone under 300 yards of total offense. That includes this year against App State, where they had 180 yards. If the Hurricanes can hold them to under 300 yards, they're going to have a very good chance of winning this game. Aside from that, you want to try and do a little bit of what App State did last week, which is keep the offense off the field as much as possible, pound them into submission, control the game, control the clock. To do that, you got to get them off the field. And also to do that, you got to limit their possessions. How do you limit their possessions? Not just by getting them off the field on 3rd down. You have to protect the football. The Hurricanes cannot turn the ball over this game. Can't turn the ball over any game, but really, especially this one on the road at night at Kyle Field against a pissed off Texas A&M. You cannot turn the ball over. You got to really protect the football, both in the passing game and the run game, and try and generate turnovers on your own. You want to keep their possessions limited. You want to take away possessions from turnovers, and you do not want to give them extra possessions by turning the ball over. Okay. I think the other thing you want to see here is, I'll give you some more keys later on, but I'll give you some of the stuff that I think the Hurricanes can do to counter some of the stuff that I said about Texas A&M. So what can the Canes do here to counter? I think defensively, the Hurricanes should look at, right now, I was gonna say something different for Haynes King at quarterback, But I think with Max Johnson, you obviously want to get pressure. If you can get pressure with your front four, great. If not, I would bring a couple more blitzes than you normally do, and you normally have to this point, because you want to give Max Johnson more to think about and more to process. This is his first start for Texas A&M. He's an experienced quarterback coming over from LSU, but right now he's going to be feeling that pressure already from the situation, the moment, getting into the flow of the game. You want to make him process quickly, although they're probably going to try and get rid of the ball quickly to try and avoid him being under pressure. If you can get him in second and long situations or in certain third down and long situations and bring pressure at him, make him move out of the pocket, get in his face, that'll help you in terms of limiting his opportunities and being effective with the football. You want to focus on shutting the run game down. Like I said, you want to focus on shutting down A-Chain. They have not been a great run blocking team to this point. They've averaged just over 56, I think it is, in terms of their run and blocking grade as an offensive line this season so far. Their other pass blocking has been okay. It's been pretty good. It hasn't been bad, but their run blocking has been pretty bad. So what you want to do is use these big defensive linemen, these long guys, these guys that are just a wave of dudes that we have, this depth, and try and control the line of scrimmage. Not necessarily blowing them back off the ball, but being able to control those offensive linemen, shut down the gaps, force A-Chain to go laterally, and then have the linebacker seal and close. So if you want to stop momentum for A-Chain, you want to get him moving laterally, and you want to stop him from finding creases where he can plant and go and get upfield. You also have to swarm to the football more than ever today, or not today, tomorrow. Canes want to swarm to the football. They want to get their gang tackle. They do not want to give these guys second opportunities by missing tackles. If they do, with these kinds of explosive players on offense, they're going to make plays. Okay. Offensively, I think you're going to see a lot more from the Hurricanes. I think you're going to see Josh Gaddis go in his bag. And I think you're going to see something very similar to what Michigan did last year against Ohio State. Similar talent level on defense for Ohio State and Texas A&M, similarly built. So you're going to see a lot of balls to the backs and tight ends, which is the way Michigan took advantage of Ohio State in the passing game, but they also ran a lot. They really controlled the game through the run game. And they were running a lot of power stuff, a lot of counters. Mixing up who they pull is what you're going to see a lot. I think you're also going to see them use some play action, some stuff they haven't used in the past. I said it on Manny's podcast on Wide Right. I think you're going to see H-backs or fullbacks, those tight ends lined up in the fullback spot or the H-back spot, possibly take a course through the offensive line, acting as their lead blocking, and then taking a seam route, getting upfield, and having an opportunity to make a play down the field. You're going to see a lot more Brashard Smith this game. I think you're going to see him in bubbles, quick slants. You might see jet sweeps. They're going to try and get him involved as Restrepo is out. I think you're going to see a lot more stuff from Michael Redding as well. I think Redding's been dependable. He hasn't been explosive, but he's been steady, and that's what you need, a guy that can move the chains. You could count on to catch the football, and then you could take your shots with Keyshawn Smith, maybe Frank Gladstone, maybe Romello Brinson. Who knows if Jacoby George gets off the bench, but we'll see. So I think you're going to see, again, also very important, you got Zion Nelson back at left tackle. You're going to probably kick Jonathan Campbell with a right tackle. You're probably going to have your best five out there in terms of your offensive line, and you get Jalen Knighton back. Jalen Knighton is going to be a huge addition, not just for the run game, but also to aid in making up for the loss of Restrepo, because now you've got another guy that you can use out of the backfield in the passing game, or even motion out or line up in the slot and take advantage of him on a linebacker. As we've all seen, Knighton's a great receiver out of the backfield, extremely explosive. They will find ways to get him the ball, whether it's on wheel routes, those rail routes out of the backfield, or angle routes, or what you call Texas routes, where he angles out one way towards the sideline and then breaks it back over the middle of the field and has a linebacker chase him where he leaves him in the dust. So look for that. I think you're going to see a lot more action for Jalen Knighton in the passing game this game. You need Henry Parrish to be steady. You need Thad to keep being that bulldozer. I think the key to this game in the end of the day, aside from the obvious stuff, time of possession, turnovers, pressure on the quarterback, to me, whoever runs the football best, this game is going to win. I think because that's going to take pressure off Max Johnson. If you're able to run the ball well with A-Chain, then you're going to have to commit to more guys in the box. If you're the Hurricanes, you're going to then man up a lot more than you want to on the outside against these A&M receivers, and then Max Johnson can find those guys downfield. So I think if A-Chain runs the ball well, that's going to cause problems to the Hurricanes. If the Hurricanes run the ball well, then that plays right into their hands. They control the game. They control the clock. Tyler Van Dyke's able to go off that play action and take advantage of the secondary rotating in. To me, if the Hurricanes can rush for 150 yards or more, and they can hold A&M to 120 rushing or less, I think they win this game. It's going to be all dependent on the lines of scrimmage. Can the Hurricanes defensive line create enough havoc up front and control that line of scrimmage enough to allow the linebackers to play above their head and make things simple on them and easy on them to just fill gaps and make plays for them to be able to control that line of scrimmage? Can the Hurricane offensive line keep Tyler Van Dyke clean, give him enough time to process and find receivers? I think they'll be able to do that. I don't think A&M's going to have as much success running the football as they think they might. I think the Hurricanes have done a really good job against the run so far this season. They're not facing an elusive quarterback like they have in the first two games. Zach Wilke was a good athlete last week. Obviously, Bethune's quarterbacks were good athletes. So you're going to be in a position where you're going to be able to tee off on this guy a little bit more. So I think the sack numbers will be a bit higher this week for the Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes can really take advantage of their style of play here because it seems to bother A&M. They're not into this ground and pound stuff. You know, Appalachian State last week weakened them, hit them, punched them in the mouth, and took advantage of that and slugged it through to get to the victory. So I think this is not A&M's preferred style of play. I think they feel more comfortable in that up-tempo stuff, playing against other spread teams that go fast. They like to spread it out. And although they'll have some power run game, most of it is zone stuff that they face. It's not a lot of the lead stuff, a lot of the pulling and power moves like the Hurricanes like to use and App State used last week on them. Because uncharacteristically, App State was 50-50 in terms of zone runs and gap runs last week. They're normally just a heavy 90% outside zone, inside zone team, mostly outside zone. Last week, App State mixed in gap runs specifically to throw off Texas A&M and pound them and play physical with them. And if they could do that to them, I think the Hurricanes have a chance to do that as well this week. I think the advantage, if there is an advantage, and believe me, it is not necessarily an advantage because you want to have all your best players out there on the field. But the advantage to having Xavier Restrepo out this week is that Tyler Van Dyke now has to find someone else, right? He's now got to actually read the defense and find open guys. He can't just turn to his guy and say, okay, I'm just getting it to Xavier. I'm just going to go to Xavier. I'm just going to go to Xavier. That's where I feel comfortable. Now he's got to read that defense and be better at it. I think this has probably caused him this week to maybe even do a little bit more film study than he's normally done to really identify the areas where he could take advantage of the defense based on their game plan. I think you're going to see a different Tyler Van Dyke this game than you did against Southern Mississippi. I think maybe last week was a bit of a wake-up call for him. I think sometimes when you have early success and you come into a season and your hype is high in terms of how people are hyping you up, there's always a little bit of a slippage, right? You may lax a little bit, but there's always that moment that pops you up and gets you going. The great ones do that. The great ones, when they slip, they figure it out right away. They don't slip too far, and then they take it back to the next level and get back to the grind when the bell rings again. And I think you're going to see that from Tyler Van Dyke. And so far in his career, from what we've seen, when the lights are bright, he steps up, he plays well. When he threw that gauntlet down last year against NC State, he said he was going to make plays, and he made plays. And when he had to play at Pitt last year, ranked team, one of the best defenses in country, playing against Kenny Pickett, the Heisman candidate, supposed Heisman candidate, he outplayed him. So, even though he had early struggles against Florida State, he brought the team back, led them back, and went on a roll and started getting the offense up and down the field. And I think he's got that moxie about him. What a horrible word I just used there. Moxie. I'm like from the 1920s. But either way, you know what moxie means. He's got Jones. I'm not going to say the word in Spanish because it's a curse word. And you might have kids watching or listening to this. Not that I've been clean-mouthed in all my podcasts. But either way, I think he's got that stuff that makes him a leader, that makes him the type of guy that's not afraid of challenge, that actually runs towards it and embraces it as opposed to shrinking from it. And I think that's very different than what we've had here recently in terms of quarterbacks and quarterback play, and even players in general at the University of Miami. So keys to the game: don't turn it over, right? Control the line of scrimmage on both sides. Make sure A-Chain doesn't get loose. Okay, box them up, gang tackle them. Make sure you're securing your tackles in the secondary also. Don't let these receivers break a tackle and get loose because they'll go. They're fast. Make sure you keep Tyler clean. Give him the opportunity to read the field. Make plays with other guys. Let him spread the ball around. You got to get the running game going. 150 yards rushing or more wins this game, I believe. I think you get 150 yards rushing or more, you win this game. Okay? That means you're controlling the clock, you're moving the chains, and if you get 150 from the run game, you're probably going to get another 200 at least to 250 from Tyler You're going to have around 400 yards of offense. That should be more than enough to win this game. Keep Texas A&M under 300 yards total. Can you do that? If you're able to keep A&M under 300 yards total, chances are you're winning this game as well. All right. And at the end of the day, it's really, can the Hurricanes weather the early storm of emotion that A&M is going to be riding in this game? Can they weather that emotional punch and take it and counter? Can the Hurricanes play well early on to maybe take a lead in the first quarter, lead in the first half, and take that into halftime where they've taken A&M's best punches through those emotions, that adrenaline's flowing, and they've come out on top at the half? If they are doing that, then A&M, I believe, like I said on Manny's podcast, is going to have some PTSD thinking back to last week with App State, and feel like, wow, we're going to do this again. We're going to lose at home. We can't take this. I mean, these guys are taking control of the game, and they're going to start to win that emotional and psychological battle. So there you have it, man. My breakdown, not as numbery as usual. A lot of talk, less numbers this game. I wanted to give you guys just my opinions on stuff and see what I see. But I think you're going to see a different Hurricanes offense in terms, like I said, using the tight ends in ways we haven't seen yet, involving the running backs more in the passing game. We haven't really seen a screen game yet from Josh Gaddis. You'll see probably a few screens this game, I believe. So be ready for that. The running backs being incorporated in the screen game, passing game, and seeing some more stuff out of the tight ends in terms of differences where they go. Another thing you're probably going to see that I mentioned on Manny's podcast, I haven't mentioned here, is probably a tight end throwback play where you see the flow going all the way to one side of the field, and then you'll see a throwback to a tight end towards the opposite side of the field. So you'll see that. We've seen that against us with Virginia Tech, Boston College. A lot of teams ran that against us, Virginia. So you guys know what I mean when I say tight end throwback, because they've run it up our ass before. So either way, there you have it. Now it's time to sit back, get the countdown going, and get this game off. This is the only thing that sucks with a 9 o'clock game. We've got to wait more than 24 hours still, 25 hours before I could sit down and enjoy this one. So after watching college football all day, waiting for this game at night, I'm going to have to rewatch this on Sunday because I don't know what kind of a mental state I'm going to be in by the time the game starts. But either way, go Canes. Let's get it done. Beat A&M. I'm out.